When was the last time you received a handwritten letter? It's a lost art. Let's talk about it. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you like hearing stories from the 90s, subscribe. Let's get into it. Sister Souljah is an activist, author, musician, and film producer. She is a New York Times bestseller. Her memoirs, No Disrespect, were released in '94, and she is the author of 5 novels that are highly acclaimed. Many assume she was a rapper. Her speeches have been featured on various rap albums, and she did join Public Enemy for a while. But she's only ever released the one album, 360 Degrees of Power. She has been very vocal over the years, especially on issues that she believes affects African Americans. She's touched upon this in her writing, and she's done various speeches and even influenced politicians. However, she's also been heavily criticised for some of her views. In his 1992 presidential campaign, Bill Clinton called out Sister Souljah, criticising her comments that she had made concerning race.
Did you realize how strong your voice was, like your mom told you when you made the comments to the Washington Post? When you said, if black people kill black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people?
Almost everybody black knows I didn't say that, Charlamagne. So
I'm
surprised that you missed the boat. No,
sometimes Google doesn't work.
No, that's...
So you was misquoted, or they just lied?
I think it was more a very highly orchestrated political move that was made where I was just being used primarily to attack hip-hop, to make it seem like the people who care about the black community are the actual racists and not the system that promotes racism.
Tupac was also heavily criticised by a politician, former Vice President Dan Quayle. One of his albums was even linked to a heinous crime. The defendant used his album as a defence to say that that had influence over him when he committed the crime. Speaking of Interscope, Quayle said, "Once again, we're faced by an irresponsible corporate act. There is absolutely no reason for a record like this to be published." Bill Clinton's criticism of Sister Souljah was even labelled the Sister Souljah moment in a negative way. And at the time, Jesse Jackson came to her defence, saying people often say things in the heat of the moment and often say things that they don't really mean. It was at Jesse Jackson's event where Bill Clinton made his criticism of Sister Souljah. So he said that Bill Clinton should have come to him privately rather than condemned her so publicly.
Jesse Jackson invited me to speak at that time, and Bill Clinton was on the ticket after me. And so when Bill Clinton spoke, he admonished or told Jesse, you should not have had her. You should have not have had Sister Souljah here.
How does that make you feel about Hillary now? Would you vote for Hillary? Would you support Hillary?
It all goes back to the plantation, my brother. You know, you got the white master and his wife. And, you know, they talk down to black people.
In 2009, Sister Souljah said that she doesn't consider the term Sister Souljah moment to be a negative thing. On the contrary, for me, Sister Souljah moment is just when you meet a powerful and intelligent and beautiful woman and you just can't seem to forget her. People talk about it like it was yesterday, so apparently they cannot forget me, and I take it as a compliment. Tupac also found himself in hot water after he made some flippant comments during an interview about Quincy Jones and his decision to date outside of his race and have biracial children.
Quincy has always transcended social and racial prejudice.
Quincy always used to say that his family was the UN.
He didn't just come for Quincy, he came for his kids. I can't even repeat what he actually said because it's not wholesome for YouTube.
He said all this kind of not very nice stuff about my dad and mixed families and mixed kids and how it's messing up America.
This prompted Quincy's daughter, Rashida, to write a strongly worded letter to Tupac, criticising him for his comments and standing up for her family and her dad. Rashida is one of the stars of Parks and Recreation. Some were unaware that her father is the legendary music icon Quincy Jones, and her mother is the late Peggy Lipton, who was an actress. Just 17 at the time, Rashida penned a letter to Tupac, accusing him of, quote, ignorance and a lack of respect for his people. She also accused him of destroying his race. Ouch. She said, to demean a man like Quincy Jones, a man who came from the ghetto of Chicago and through talent and perseverance became a living legend, demeans the whole progress of African Americans. Then she asked him, where would he be if people like her father hadn't paved the way for him? Rashida went in on Tupac, of all people. This actually prompted him to reach out to her and apologize. He apologized to the whole family, including Quincy himself. This whole incident led up to Tupac meeting Rashida's sister.
I was at a club one night in New York, and he thought I was Rashida. Tupac did, and he came up to me, and he was apologizing about the article that he wrote about my parents. And, inside I'm just like, oh my God, he is so cute. Tupac said, I have a few things to talk to you about. And my dad was like, I have a few things to talk to you about, too.
He apologized, and when he was apologizing, two white girls from San Francisco said, hey, Tupac, remember us? He said, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Eventually, Tupac and Rashida were able to talk amicably about the whole thing, and they eventually settled everything. Tupac even helped Rashida with her class project. You can actually find the interview on YouTube. I'll link it below. In her father's autobiography, Khadija refers to Tupac as the love of her life. They were together in Vegas at the time of his death. I knew we should have never gone to Vegas that night. I had a horrible feeling about it. I've gone over it in my mind a million times. It wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to be there. It was the worst possible thing that could have happened. I still to this day don't know who shot him. I wasn't able to say goodbye. It's not something that should happen to anyone. She said they lived together for 4 months before he was killed in Vegas, and it's also believed that they were engaged, although some of Tupac's friends dispute that because they said that he never said anything to them about being engaged. In Tupac's letter to Sister Souljah, he refers to 2 women that he's conflicted over. Both Tupac and Sister Souljah were no strangers to controversy. Both were misunderstood at times, and both were heavily criticised. Sister Souljah has defended Tupac on multiple occasions in various interviews, especially when he's been criticised for his thug life persona.
Great mixture of music and a
wait a minute, Sister Souljah. Wait a minute,
I'll let you speak. Please let me just respond, okay? Somebody like Tupac Shakur has a very excellent record. A salute to his mother and a salute to all black mothers and black children. So the only thing that I'm trying to say is that hip-hop is diversified, and sometimes you try to paint somebody with one flat color and you don't recognize that their minds are in a state of turmoil, which is why when you give them a mic, they don't necessarily represent one clear philosophy, because they're young black men who are confused and miseducated, as most young black children are in the American educational system, where they don't learn about their culture and don't get the values that they ought to have in order to survive and do positive and productive things.
Mother Love, you get to finish up here.
Now, I agree with what she's saying, and you are very well spoken, my sister, and I understand what you're saying. What I am talking about, I'm not talking about the... I'm not talking about when Tupac has made the song that is a tribute to all mothers and welfare mothers. But what he does, he's also in jail for an attempted rape. I mean, come on, these kids see this stuff every single day. You have to decide
right, so
what you're going to do. You can't,
listen, the question
sweetie,
becomes, what are we going to do about the situation? And I think
what we are going to do.
The community is in a state of crisis. But
and
what
you
we
know
need
that,
to
and
do
I know that.
is to sit down and talk. And one of the reasons why young people are in a state of crisis is because adults use the media to attack them and don't sit down and have those personal conversations that help to improve the psychological mind state of these young people. Tupac is somebody that I debate with all the time, but I take the time to talk to him.
But sweetie, you can't have it both ways.
Tupac was incarcerated in 1994 at the Clinton Correctional Facility. While he was in prison, obviously with a lot of time on his hands, he wrote various letters, including letters to Madonna, Desiree Smith, and of course, Sister Souljah. The letter he wrote to Sister Souljah had many questioning. Who were the 2 women he was referring to? in reference to being in love and conflicted between the two. He referred to one of these women as a dear friend. Many assume he's referring to Jada Pinkett Smith. She has been vocal over the years about how close the two of them were, but she always maintains that the relationship was purely platonic. But as Park said himself, you could never just be friends with someone you fall in love with. Let's take a look at the letter. It looks like he wrote it in draft, then wrote it up neat. That's how we did it back in the day. You can see his respect for Sister Souljah, where he talks about editing the letter as he goes along, making sure that it's perfect. They had actually wrote letters back and forth to one another, and he was eagerly anticipating a visit from her. Tupac had just read her book, No Disrespect, which he had released that year, and he said that he was encouraging his fellow inmates to read it too. And it was very well received by the inmates, including the female inmates. It also looks like he was having some type of book club with the two women, because he said he had got them to read it too, and they were all discussing it. He said it was the chapter on Nikki that got him thinking about his relationship with the two women and the dynamics between each of them. And it doesn't sound like the two women themselves were friends, but they knew of each other. Jasmine Guy and Jada, for instance, were friends who had Tupac in common as a mutual friend, and they worked together to support him. This wasn't that type of situation, I don't think. I have asked two females to read it, and we use each chapter as a door to our own lives, like the chapter on Nikki is my favourite. So he refers to them as Woman A and Woman B. Woman A is believed to be Keisha Morris, the woman who Tupac referred to as his first girlfriend, and who he married while he was incarcerated. Woman A is from the streets, and that's all she knows, but I can see and feel that she loves me. I don't know if from the streets had the same meaning back then as it does now. When he said from the streets, I thought he was referring to Jada, because Jada has said herself that she used to sell drugs and she was pretty hood back in the day. But Keisha had a stable home environment with both her mother and father in the home, and she was a college student. She went to the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Maybe saying one is from the streets doesn't have the same meaning as it does today, and he may actually be referring to her being a native New Yorker and, you know, being from the city. But of course, Keisha is very private, so we don't really know much about her. Woman B, on the other hand, is famous, rich, and able to assist me financially. He said Woman B knew him since before he got into the business. So again, many believe Woman B is Jada. He said that she is so into her career that they don't have time to see each other. So I'm literally torn between an old friend who went from being of a platonic nature to a potential wife, and a new friend who has been there through this whole gunshot near-death experience. Could this be the real reason why Tupac and Jada had their big falling out? He said they were both aware of one another. I've always wondered how Jada reacted to Tupac going off and getting married. He also could have been referring to Madonna when he said one of them helps him out financially, because according to Tupac's friend Kendrick Wells, Madonna did help him financially when he was first arrested. He actually said she was the only one who helped him, while everyone else seemed to abandon him. In the Daily News, in 1995, on the 23rd of January, it was reported that Jada had put up $100,000 towards Tupac's bail money. It also says they dated. We can't believe everything that's printed in the newspapers, especially back then. If two people were seen together, they were reported as dating. And Jada has always maintained that there was no chemistry between them and they were just friends. However, the letter that Tupac wrote himself to Sister Souljah says otherwise. The other woman is described as a new friend who has been there since the whole ordeal. In an interview with Sister to Sister magazine, Keisha said, "We met when I was 20 at the Capitol. That's a nightclub. We were dancing and we spoke briefly. He was going through something legally at the time, and I told him to just be careful of the people he's around and that I hope everything works out." Then she actually moved up to Dannemora to be with him while he served his sentence, and that's a really small town where there's nothing there, so it was no joke. She really uprooted herself to support him. She also put school on hold. So, he had to be talking about Keisha. At the time of Tupac's incarceration, Jada was working on the movie A Low Down Dirty Shame. This was a Keenan Wayans movie, and it wasn't exactly the most critically acclaimed movie, but it was a stepping stone, because Jada would go on to land a role in The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy, and the iconic movie Set It Off. So he said B was an old friend who went from being somebody of a platonic nature to a potential wife. Now maybe Jaden wasn't really off the mark after all when he said that Tupac wanted to marry his mother and that he even proposed to her. But when Jada talks about Tupac publicly at least, she's only ever referred to him as a dear friend. Even her husband Will Smith said that nothing like that was ever between them. But the person who Tupac did end up marrying was Keisha. But they weren't married that long, and the marriage did end up getting annulled soon after Tupac was released from prison. When he was released from jail, technically, he was a married man. So again, could this be the real reason why he and Jada fell out? If it is to be believed that she is woman B, then it is a real possibility that that was the reason. She said they had a huge argument when he got out of jail, and the reason for the argument was them going in different directions, taking different paths in life, and him going down a destructive path. She went to LA to pursue her acting career, and he ended up going to prison. She said a lot transpired when he went to jail. And what did he do in jail? He got married. Even Keisha said herself that while he was in jail and then when he got out, they had a lot of issues to deal with because, he was very angry about being there and he took it out on her at times. So technically, Tupac and Keisha also had issues when he got out of jail. And she said it got to the point where she had to get away. She went on vacation for a whole month. And soon after she got back, that's when they annulled the marriage. So Jada and Tupac didn't speak for quite some time, even almost 2 years. And at the time of his death, they weren't in contact. But Keisha said she and Tupac actually stayed in touch after the annulment. He would call her up just to chat. She said he would call her up and they would talk about different things. He would play music for her and ask her what her thoughts were. When she asked him why he still wanted to be in touch with her since they were no longer together, according to her, he said, she will always be Mrs. Shakur. Keisha said she was with Tupac the night before he flew to Vegas at the Hotel Nico. She said they had spent all night talking and just talking. They fell asleep and the following day, she got up to leave. She said she didn't wake him because he was sleeping so peacefully. Had she known that that would have been the last time she saw him, she would have woken him up. So if it was Jada referenced in the letter, it does contradict her claims of a purely platonic relationship. However, maybe it was platonic, but they had just begun discussing taking it further. And maybe that's why whenever she talks about Tupac, you always get a sense that there was unfinished business. Now, if my dates are correct, at the time of Tupac's incarceration, she actually wasn't with Will. She had met Will, she met him in 1990, and, according to what Will said, there was some chemistry between them. But Will was married at the time, and when I looked up the date of their divorce, it says that he divorced his first wife in 1995. And Will himself said that he called Jada literally after he signed his divorce papers. So technically, that means they weren't together until 1995. And the letter to Sister Souljah alludes of a physical relationship, going beyond friendship. You don't talk about a friend the way Tupac spoke about woman B. Sister Souljah herself spoke about what it was like to receive letters from Tupac. She said, "I have gotten letters from brothers who said they had no idea what they did had so much impact on the life of sisters. I have received letters from Tupac Shakur. He said he read the book, and it helped him understand his mother and sister more. There were things he didn't know. So the people I love and care about have given me a favourable response." Sister Souljah is also a mother and a wife. She has been married for a very long time, since 1989, and she actually took some time out from the spotlight to focus on her family. She said, "I basically felt I needed to concentrate on building my personal foundation. I got married and I wrote the book. I discovered that family is so important, that once you get it in order, a good balanced family brings you peace and stability. The reviews for Sister Souljah's book are very high. People don't necessarily agree with everything she says, but they agree with the core of her message. So who do you think Tupac is referring to in his letter to Sister Souljah? Is he referring to Keisha and Jada? And if woman B really is Jada, does that not mean that they had more than a platonic relationship? Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below. You know I read the comments. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. And don't forget to click the bell for more. And thanks for the video suggestions. If you have any suggestions, you can always email me or send me a DM. The links are below.